On. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome in. It's in-game live game day on a wonderful Wednesday evening. Scott Wetzel and I was going to say Dave Sherpen and Joe Madden in for Dave Sherpen. Once again, he's on vacation this week as Joe is gracious enough to be here again, and she is all week long. On a Wednesday, little college basketball, little NBA, little NHL. Joe, we got the typical SGP same game parlay. We got Black Clouds, another winner last night. Hit our SGP as well. We got the Colby Dant coming up in about a half hour. A little college basketball talk with him. George Kurtz, a little baseball hockey talk with him at the top of next hour. Then Cam Stewart will join us in the final hour, do a little golf as we have a pretty big tournament this weekend. So it should be a lot of fun over the next two, hopefully making a couple of shekels along the way. What's going on, Joe? How are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. We've had a great day of college basketball out there. Trey Johnson and Texas didn't let me down with him being able to hit his 3+3s as well as Texas being able to nicely go over their team total. It's been interesting on the ice so far as well, Scott. We've got a 1-1 game between the Sabres and the Red Wings, and we've got LSU needing some help out there versus Mississippi State. They're down at the halftime, 41-24. Wasn't this like a spread of 8.5 for Mississippi State? They're just dominating going into the second half. That spread's moved to 22.5, Scott. So lots to break down tonight. I'm excited for tonight's show. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. I didn't do anything this afternoon. I stayed away from the afternoon college basketball. I figured there was going to be so much tonight. Got a monster NBA game. Not really a lot riding on it, but still Oklahoma City, Boston Celtics, and Beantown. Maybe an NBA Finals preview. Who knows? Love the over on that one. We're going back and forth on that. Not many times you get the Celtics basically pick them at home, but you're going to get that tonight with OKC in town. It shows how good OKC is. Got a monster upset in the making anyway in college basketball. I say monster, but just because UNLV is mediocre, but they're at home as the Mountain West tournament is in Las Vegas, and they're taking on Air Force, which is just the worst of the worst. And somehow or another, Air Force is actually leading at the half. It's 25-21, so a 12.5 or so point spread is down to 6.5, 5.5. depending on where you do your shopping. But I was telling the boys on the text chain with the podcast crew, that's why I don't lay double digits in these conference tournament games. Just won't do it. It's hard to do it in the NCAA tournament, but I will, just because you do have a lot of mismatches. But these conference tournament games, Joe, you've seen so many crazy and weird scores that I just can't lay 12.5 points. I'm glad I didn't. Now it's 5.5. They're down 4. They should win. I mean, Air Force is just off. They got one win, whether 1 or 2 wins in the Mountain West, and somehow or another they're winning the game. So interesting.
Yeah, they've come out nice and strong. So if you want to jump on UNLV to come out and get the win and cover that spread, because the money line's too juicy, laying the 5.5 is coming in at -104, but that +5.5 on Air Force. If you didn't take those double digits with them to start, I wouldn't jump in right now, Scott, but I won't be shocked if Air Force continues in the second half from what we've seen in this first half to come out nice and strong. The one that I'm questioning is Mississippi State. If they can continue to lead LSU like this, I'd grab LSU plus the 22.5. I like Mississippi State laying the 8.5, but I don't think in the second half they can continue to shoot so strongly and be able to have this far of a win point wise. So I'm grabbing LSU plus the 22.5.
All right, my main play right now would be UNLV laying 5.5. Air Force in this season, 4-27, 1-19 in the Mountain West. UNLV not great, but still 17-14 overall, 11-9 in the Mountain West. If this team loses to Air Force, now the 5.5 is enough of a number where they could easily win and not cover. I get that, but I'm thinking they're being read the riot act at halftime. So let's go UNLV minus the 5.5 as they overcome a 4-point deficit. Did very well last night with our trends, little new segment we handed out just to come up with some monster trends, best trends from games that are starting now until the end of the show. Went 4-1. So you know what? Why don't we do it again? Let's go right back to the well and see if we can find some super trends. How about some terrific trends on this Wednesday evening? In no particular order. And again, not really advocating that you make these plays. It's just I love getting trends, Joe, and I love seeing how they turn out. Last night it turned out 4-1. It may turn out to be go 1-4. So, but for those that love trends, and a lot of us do, how about college basketball? Montana, Northern Colorado later on tonight. Big Sky final. Two teams are combined 38-22 over this year, both 19-11. So let's go over 146.5 Montana, Northern Colorado. How about to the actually one more college basketball game? UC Santa Barbara later on tonight as well. 7-1 against the spread their last 8 against Cal State Bakersfield. Getting a halfway decent number. They're the better team, laying only 5.5. Let's go Cal Santa Barbara. Hockey, Vancouver, Calgary, your Calgary Flames, Joe. 38-16. These two teams are combined over the last 3 weeks to a month or so of hockey, including 18-4 under combined. So, listen, that's a pretty strong trend. Give me under 5.5 Vancouver, Calgary. How about some NBA trends? Best ones we could find. Clippers. Getting 2.5 at Miami. Seems tempting, right? Clippers have failed to cover 11 straight road games. Brings up the best sports axiom of all time, right? Winners bet with streaks, losers bet against streaks. They haven't covered a road game, including last night when they lost to New Orleans. They could certainly lose to Miami. So give me Miami minus the 2.5 as the actual bet. And then the final one out of our terrific 5, how about Memphis hosting Utah? Memphis 1-10-1 against the spread their last 12 games overall. How about 0-7? They've failed to cover 7 straight road games. This team used to be phenomenal at home, unbeatable. Not anymore. So give me Utah plus the 12, 12.5, 11.5. At Memphis tonight. So maybe not win, but cover the spread. What do you think, Joe? Which one do you like the best? Any?
Okay, so the best has to be out there on the ice between the Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames because, Scott, you also look at these two teams. They are battling it out for that last wild card spot. Every single game matters, and with them both sitting here in the Pacific, 4th and 5th in the Pacific, for Calgary in the 4th place and Vancouver in that 5th, this is going to be that defensive battle that we want to see out there. Now, I know both teams could try to come out fast paced. But you got Dustin Wolf in net here for the Calgary Flames tonight. He's been so solid. I trust in him to not allow Vancouver to light that lamp. And I do think Vancouver has to come out defensive minded tonight. They played last night versus Montreal. They took a loss. They were only able to score 1 goal, held Montreal to 3. I think this is definitely the best trend of all of your trends there, the under 5.5 in that game.
Yeah, I do like that. I don't like the fact Vancouver played last night, too. You get some goofy things going on sometimes, back-to-backs. But you said it, both battling for playoff spots. It should be like playoff hockey. An empty netter could easily get you to 6. I get that. 5.5 isn't, generally a good number. But I did play that one. Don't necessarily play all these, but I did play that one. I like that also. I really like them all tonight. You can't beat some of the trends. I mean, the Clippers have failed to cover 11 straight road games. You got the Grizz, failing to cover 7 straight at home, laying a monster number. How about Utah today being fined by the NBA because they were sitting Lauri Markkanen too many times? He's healthy. These teams don't want to win. It is such a joke. So maybe because of that, Utah, gives an honest effort tonight as well. Another reason to take the Utah. Yeah. In-game live. We'll check out all the scores when we come back during the grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Joe back until 10 p.m. Eastern time. Little NBA, little college basketball, some NHL as well to dive into. NBA, the marquee matchup. It's too bad it's really a meaningless game, but still, it's fun to see the two of the best, at worst, 5 teams in the NBA square off in Boston tonight. OKC, Boston. I don't know if, maybe if OKC were to win, would that change your thinking about Boston? I don't know. But either way, good game. Points are plenty so far, which is great, Joe. I love the over in the game. It was 228.5. I think this is one of those. I don't say this too often, once in a while, but this is one where I would definitely have adjusted the line. I would be surprised if this thing didn't get to 235 tonight. It's 35-34, opening minute of the second quarter. They're giving you 236.5, so the value of that 228 is long gone. But I think it goes even to 236.5. Like I said, I think this gets to 240 or above, so I would still play it. Love that one. And then your Toronto Raptors. That was the other one we talked about on the podcast. I don't get it, but Toronto's playing good basketball. They've won 4 of their last 5. Philadelphia stinks. I mean, they couldn't beat Topeka High right now with a 5-on-4 advantage. And the line was only 3.5. Game's underway, first quarter, or early second quarter. It's a close game so far, 29-27. You're getting basically the original number 3.5 on Toronto, but I think the Raptors end up winning by 7 to 8 to 10 points, and I still like the Celtics, so I'd play both right now.
Yeah, I like where you're going with the Raptors. Coming into it, I was getting a 4.5, so I did stay off it, but I'm going to live jump in on the 3.5. I like them to win by 4. I could see them winning by 6, 7, or 8 points, though, Scott. And then between OKC and the Boston Celtics, I did grab OKC plus the 2.5 pregame and the over 228.5 as well. And I'm with you. This one will continue to tick up. Now, an interesting thing I saw, and I'm not sure if you checked for an overtime bet in this game, because I was looking for this one to go to overtime. I couldn't find it anywhere on FanDuel for this one to go to overtime. Is that something you looked into? And then I also want to see if I can live bet it right now, because we got a 2-point game, and I do think this is one of those games where we're going to see it so competitive to the very end, even though, at this point it really doesn't mean much, but these teams know that they could be the matchup. So there's the overtime bet, Scott, plus 1,700. I'm going to jump in. I think it's worth a shot.
Yeah, now I see it. They don't offer the no, but they offer the yes. So for whatever reason, because they usually do offer the no, believe it or not. It's like 40 to 1 or 50 to 1, but they do offer that sometimes. But yeah, now I see it 17. But I think listen, they're 5 back. They got a little ways to go, but they've showed a little life, Toronto. And if not for who's the team I'm trying to remember? If not for not Miami, but hold on a second. Who's showing some life there in the Eastern Conference? If not for the Chicago Bulls. If not for the Chicago Bulls winning 3 in a row, Toronto really would be right there. So it's good to see a couple of teams really care about winning, unlike with the Pelicans and the Jazz and the Wizards and all the other teams that clearly have had no interest in winning. These two teams have. So Philadelphia's got no business. They like I said, they couldn't beat Topeka High right now. So I was real surprised that line was. It was 3.5, and you're right. Then it bumped up to 4.5. It's 3.5 now. I'd even delay the 4.5 because I think they end up winning by 6, 7, 8, 9 points. Philadelphia has just been atrocious. 2-14 against the spread their last 16 games. I mean, they've just completely given up on the season. So, any other NBA games that are underway that you like tonight?
Well, what do you think of the Utah Jazz? They were plus those 12 points. The Memphis Grizzlies, I couldn't lay it with them, but we have seen the Jazz get off to that fast start. Scott, you said it. Maybe this is going to be the game where they kind of wake up. They're up 16-9 right now. Would you bet them at plus 7.5 or at plus 220 for this team to actually pull off the upset here versus Memphis? I was thinking Memphis would win, but I wasn't going to lay 12 points with them. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I liked Utah. Mostly a trend pick, but on the court as well. We'll start with the trends, right? We mentioned them in our terrific trend segment there to start. Memphis 1-10-1 against the spread their last 12 games, including 7 straight at home. They just can't buy a win, or at least a cover anyway, at home. Memphis isn't great. They've lost 13 straight road games. 2-10 straight up their last 12 games overall. But I will say, for whatever reason, they're 7-2 against the spread their last 9 games against Memphis. And that's generally been really good Memphis teams and really bad Utah teams like we have here. So if that's the case, Memphis overall playing mediocre basketball, 6-8 their last 14 games. I did like Utah. Little hunch play, and then you throw in the fact that Utah got fined for not playing Lauri Markkanen. So maybe they realize the eyes are watching them, and they play a little bit better tonight. So would I take them still plus 7.5? I'd probably not, only because I'm thinking Memphis is going to make a run, and we'll get that line back up to closer to what it was to start the game. Right now, as you mentioned, Utah's leading timeout in the court 16-9. So let that get back up to at least double digits before I would bet it again. But I did like them tonight.
Yeah, I like where you're going with that one. The Phoenix Suns and the Houston Rockets, this was a spread of 4.5. I did grab the Suns pregame plus the 4.5. You can get a 6.5 right now as the Rockets lead this 12-9. And then I also circled KD, and we're seeing his numbers come down, Scott, in this one. So he's got 3 points on the board. His live number is 24.5. I just think it's too light. I would take that to the over. I jumped in on his over 26.5 points coming into this game. He scored at least 29 points in 3 of his last 4 games. The one game that he didn't, it was 21 points, and I believe it was versus the Dallas Mavericks. That was a night that I had him ulted. Came back the next night, put up 35 points, and I'm expecting tonight for him to nicely clear 26.5. So when we're getting here a live number of 24.5 at minus 114 to the over, I think it's a great place to jump.
Yeah, listen, these games are basically do or die for Phoenix, right? And they may already be dead the way they're playing. They just can't seem to get out of the funk. I thought it was funny. Phoenix was telling us to Ranieri on Game Time Decisions. Phoenix is 5 games under 500. Forget the fact that it's the Phoenix Suns and Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. Right? They got named players. Right? The bottom line, they're 5 games under 500. And Houston is 15 games over 500 and at home. That's a 20-game swing. And you were getting the Rockets laying only 4.5. You put different uniforms on these players, and that Rockets line would be closer to 7.5, 8.5, maybe even 10.5, to tell you the truth. So I like the Rockets tonight. I still like them laying the 6.5. All right, SGP, same game.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back. It is in-game live game day here on the grid. Hour number one, Scott and Joe until 10 p.m. Eastern time, 24-25 past the hour. You know what that means. Time for a little SGP same game parlay time. All right. We did hit ours last night with the LA Kings beating the New York Islanders in regulation. Game went under. No goal first 5 minutes. Only one goal in the first period. And we got a couple of shots. In fact, we had 3 shots on goal in the second period with Adrian Kempe. So nice little plus 570. Not a monster figure, but we're playing with house money. So now tonight, Joe, we could take a couple of chances here. Let's have some fun. I know this game's got sucker written all over it. It really does. This line is just too wacky, but I'm going to bite just the same. We're going to start with the Denver Nuggets at home, laying 3 against the Minnesota Teacups. I mean, Denver's only 3. Joker is playing. Jamal Murray is playing. Aaron Gordon's not, but who cares? He stinks. And I'm getting Denver basically pick them against Minnesota. Playing a little better basketball, Minnesota, but I'll take my chances. Got to go over 233.5 Denver, Minnesota. Nobody plays defense in the NBA, so you got to go over. Then we're going to use the Joker. Right? This is going to be kind of like a chalk, SGP. Yes, Joker to get 25 points or more at minus 220. Joker to get 8 assists. That's no big deal at minus 290. Then we'll go on the other side. We'll go Minnesota. Rudy Gobert to get 8 rebounds. He's coming off a triple-double, so I don't have any concerns about that. That's at minus 260. And then Dante DiVincenzo to get 2 threes. He gets that in the first half, minus 410. Add it all up, and it's actually a halfway decent payout. I've turned what I think is a Denver and over parlay that pays, 2.5 to 1 into a 9.5 to 1 parlay plus 931. Just getting a couple of, maybe the Joker 25 points because, he has games where he scores in the low 20s, but all the others I'm pretty certain of. So Denver over Denver, Joker 25 points or more, 8 rebounds or more, Gobert 8 rebounds or more, and then DiVincenzo with 2 threes or more, 9.5 to 1, 931.
Okay, so you got 9.5 to 1, and Scott, you won't believe it. I've got the same game for a parlay. We actually can both win, even though we're on opposite sides. I got for one like the Minnesota Timberwolves plus 4. So you've got plus 3 on yours, or laying the 3 on your side.
I did put it in this morning, yeah.
Right, so we can definitely get both of these parlays cashing. So I got a 3-legger. My first leg will be the Timberwolves plus the 4 points. I really like how this team has been playing, winning their last 5, been looking really strong since Julius Randle got back in the lineup. So I'll take them plus the points. I think they can hang tight here with the Denver Nuggets. I'll look at Julius Randle to be just highly impactful ever since coming back. He's been able to average 17.6 points, 8.2 rebounds, and a 7.2 assists. So I'm going to look tonight at his points, rebounds, and assists. That number coming in at 30.5. I think that number is going to finish closer to 35. I think it's going to be that higher scoring game. And then I'll look at Jamal Murray for his points to the over. That number coming in at 22.5. You know he's going to get those points out on the board. The last time he faced the Minnesota Timberwolves, he was able to put up 25 points in that game. I'm expecting him nicely to be able to clear the 22.5. So 3 legs here, Scott. Not as much plus money as you're getting. This is coming in at plus 482. Again, that's the Timberwolves plus the 4. Julius Randle over 30.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And Jamal Murray over 22.5 points for plus 482. And like I said, Scott, we can both win in this situation.
It would take a minor miracle, but we could. One of us would have to get the push, obviously, but that's okay. You would have to actually get the push on yours. No, I could get the push on mine. Same thing because you're getting 4. Yeah. So you put these in at different times during the day. I put them in, sometimes I put them in later, sometimes earlier. I do notice that you do get the better lines. Like if I like Denver, I got the better line. If you like Minnesota, you put it a little bit later on. You got the better line depending on how you look at it. But it's kind of weird, but I like yours, even though I went opposite him and bet Denver. Like, there's certain bets, like, if you told me you bet the under in a Celtic game, I'd be like, oh, I hate that. But I can see why someone would take Minnesota. They're playing well. The line's got written all over it. So some suckers buy in like me, and then you're wise enough to say, nope, you know what, give me Minnesota plus the 4. So I could see you hitting yours, definitely. So worst comes to worst, we kind of all hit our little player props, and then we can just hedge either side, and then you guarantee yourself, for the viewer out there, you just guarantee yourself a winner. So they took up on top of the hour. I think it is 9 o'clock. Yeah. So, by the way, Memphis has come back. They've taken a 2-point lead, now laying 10.5. And Colby Dan, college basketball talk, coming up next.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back. It is in-game live game day here on the grid on a wonderful Wednesday. Scott Wetzel, Joe Madden until 10 p.m. Eastern time. Time to throw a little focus to the college basketball scene. Let us welcome in our good buddy Colby Dan. Check out his podcast, the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and his podcast, the College Basketball or the College Basketball Experience podcast. Right, you change it, Colby. When it's football season, it's the College Football Experience. So now, obviously, it's College Basketball Experience. With that said, I'm going to throw a goofy game at you just because I marvel at some of these scores. And that is Air Force, believe it or not, going toe-to-toe with UNLV. We're talking about an Air Force team that won 4 games all season. They're 1-20 their last 19 games. UNLV around 500, playing in Las Vegas, right? If the Mountain West tournament is in Las Vegas, and it's a 2-point game. UNLV leading 49-47. We'll start there with 7.5 minutes left. Can Air Force actually win this game?
I was scared on betting this because Air Force was terrible last season too. Not as terrible as this, but pretty close to this. This, I think they had 6 or 7 wins. They won by 40 at UNLV, which was shocking a year ago. So I stayed away from this, but I mean, UNLV has been hot to end the season. Kruger's coaching for his life, or I guess not coaching, just taking an L because, to be up 5 against Air Force. But I think I see the in-game line at 7.5. UNLV is just so much better than Air Force, so much more athletic. I was at Mountain West Media Days. I interviewed a lot of these players for Air Force. And with all due respect, it felt like I was interviewing me. You know what I mean? I was just like, wait, you're their team captain? Whereas like you interview the other guys, you're like, this is a 6'10" giant that's super athletic, So I think there is a little bit of value in taking UNLV in game, but man, they've been all over the place this year, and you got to wonder. You lose this game, I think Kevin Kruger is definitely unemployed.
Yeah, for sure. It's not a good game out there for them if they lose it. What are you thinking between California and Stanford right now? Stanford was up big, and I think California was grabbing 9.5 coming into this. They've been able to pull to tie this one up here in the second, 58-58 right now. Did you have a bet going into this?
I did, and I actually got the worst of the number because I took it last night at 5.5. I just believe it, especially they're playing in Charlotte. I don't think they've ever played on this side of the Mississippi, or that side of the Mississippi, I guess I should say. I took the points with Cal. I took the money line as well, and it's a similar situation to Grambling earlier in the day, knocking off the 1 seed Southern. Anytime you have a team with no pressure, that to me is their season's kind of cooked in a way, and you're playing the rival, and you lost both games before by 2 points, by a bucket here, a bucket there. I love the rivalry dog in those spots. So I see they're up 60-58 right now. Hopefully they can win this thing outright. I took the points too, just to cover myself. But anytime to me in the conference tournaments you can get a rivalry where it's the third time and they're 0-2 early on. I love the angle of taking the team that has lost both regular season matchups.
Heads Gonzaga last night, beating St. Mary's and beating them pretty good. God, St. Mary's team, God, they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn last night. A couple of games getting underway, including USC Rutgers, Cole. But man, I don't get it. I love the over, although it's only 2-0, minute and a half in, and it's already down to 147.5. But Rutgers USC, your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I stayed away from a side on this, I think on the show, just because we pick everything. I actually took Rutgers, but it didn't make sense to me that USC was favored. USC's just won 2 of the last 10 games, and Rutgers clearly more talented team with multiple, NBA lottery picks. I do agree with you. I took the over. The over was the play to me on the side of it. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. USC struggled on these East Coast trips, specifically the first matchup. So I know it's not Eastern time zone, but still Indianapolis. So went with the over as well, and you can get an even better number right now. So jump in.
We've got a good game tonight with Syracuse and SMU. What are you going to do with this one, Colby? That spread is sitting at 8.5, total 149.5. Syracuse had a great game last night versus Florida State.
Yeah, and I love the orange plus the points here. SMU, to me, if you look at them, first off, they just played on March 4th. SMU won by 2. And that was in Dallas. This one is in Charlotte. Syracuse got the play-in game. I love teams that got the play-in game because you're going to know the court a little bit better. You're going to feel a little more comfortable in the spot. And even more so with this one, SMU has never been a part of a power conference tournament. So this is their first time ever doing that. And Syracuse, let's be honest, they're healthier. They have veterans too. I mean, Eddie Lampkin, I feel like, has been in college for 10 years. He was at Colorado last year. He was at Colorado at TCU the years before. And they're healthier. One of the big ones is getting JJ Starling back. So I'm all over the points. I actually think the money line is live here.
Strange line, and that I think the wrong team is favored. Georgia starting in about an hour, laying 3.5 against Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm with you here too. I took Oklahoma. It seemed like I took a lot of dogs on the card today. Mainly, they're in the more desperate spot. Georgia's soundly in, but to end the season, Oklahoma played a lot better ball than I think. They lost a couple games, heartbreak style. Kentucky beat them at the buzzer, but I'm with you. And if you follow this trend, believe it or not, I feel like every desperate SEC team in a pivotal game has won. We saw it with Texas against Vanderbilt tonight. Yeah. And go back to the games prior with Georgia beating Florida in a desperate spot. It seems like each one of the desperate teams always wins in these games. So I like the Sooners, and I think Porter Moser's teams played better than I think they solidified NCAA tournament berth with this win here.
Okay, so can Seton Hall then, if you're talking about desperate teams, keep it tight here with Villanova? They got a spread right around 10.5.
I think so. I mean, look, I don't like, it wouldn't shock me just because Villanova has lost to Columbia this year, but the Pirates, Shaheen Holloway's from New York City. You saw this against Rick Pitino in St. John's the other day when it was like a 20-point line. He's got too much pride, and I think the players coach. I think they get up for him. And who is Villanova to be laying double digits? I know Villanova's been a lot better this season than maybe last season, but they still haven't been great, and they've had some blemishes in late game situations. I'll take the points in Seton Hall here. I think Nova probably gets the win, but give me the points and Shaheen Holloway's bunch.
All right, interesting one. Central Florida, Kansas. Kansas blew them out by like 40 on the road, then had to hold on for dear life at home against Central Florida, laying 10.5, 154.5.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with, you go back to Kansas in December, we saw them beat Duke, right? Or that was maybe November, but I'm saying early on, Kansas looked intact. So when they went down to Orlando and drilled UCF, I wasn't that surprised by it. But whatever's happened since, you got Bill Self writing love letters to the city, to the fans, saying, "Stay with me." I mean, that's never worked for me. So maybe it works for him. He's a millionaire. So look, I'm taking the points. I think Kansas wins the game, but 10.5. It's a big number for a UCF team that's already played a game, that's decently talented, and with Kansas being all over the place, give me the points with the Golden Knights.
Anything else you want to quickly throw out for us? We've got about 30 seconds left here, Colby, before the break. Yeah,
another one I like in the Big Sky is Montana. I know I feel like I'm giving away all these dogs here, but I feel like it's a dog type of night. Montana, I think, will take down Northern Colorado, and I think Grand Canyon, now that they got healthier with Grant Foster coming back for them, I think Grand Canyon will roll. People don't know this. When they play in Vegas, they have a huge home edge.
All right. Good job, Colby. As always, check out his podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Colby, we'll do it again soon. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back. It is In-Game Live Game Day here on the Grid. Thanks again, Colby Dant, the College Experience Podcast, joining us for a couple moments, giving us some basketball winners for sure. Speaking of basketball, Joe, check out back to the NBA board here for a second, then we'll go back to the college hoops. But just want to check out my Celtics score at the half. 63-60 OKC leads. Not bad. I'll take it. Over-under is up to 240.5. I know even if you grabbed it late at 236.5, you're still looking pretty good here. Close game, no blowouts. Everyone's playing. That's looking okay. And then the other one we talked about from my side anyway, Toronto, right? 69-55, leading the Philadelphia 76ers by 14 at the half. Now laying 11.5, over under 231.5. So cross your fingers. So far, so good with the two basketball plays that I really liked.
Yeah, those are looking great. And look what the Utah Jazz have done. They've fallen flat on their faces out there, Scott. They are now down 48-31 with the Grizz making a nice run. That spread's moved from the 12 to the 7.5 for the Jazz, up to plus 18.5 now, as they're just not getting things done. So all hopes that maybe this team would respond positively tonight, just not coming into play. I wouldn't even touch them plus the 18.5. I'm glad that I didn't put a bet in prior, and I'm glad you said what you did, that maybe Memphis will continue to get going in this game. So glad I'm off it, Scott.
Yeah, I figured they would turn it around. I was actually looking back, probably a halfway decent bet because the line was lowered so much to 7.5. But you know when you're down, I forget what they were down, but they were down a pretty good number, 7 points, and you're still favored by over a touchdown. You know the boys in Vegas expect you to come back. So 50-34 now. I did think Utah would keep a little hunch, little something. I thought they would keep it close just because Memphis has failed to cover 7 in a row. So, but not happening. Dallas leads San Antonio. Tough game to bet. Dallas has been awful since the Kyrie, injury, and I really go back to the Luka trade. San Antonio's playing for nothing. That I had really no interest in that one, Joe. Anything from your end?
No, not really in that one. I kind of just went with the Mavs to be able to come out and cover with the points there. But it was the Phoenix Suns that I had the more interest in coming into this game. I grabbed them plus the 4, and then I did play KD for his points. Now I just checked, he has 9 points on the board. So you've lost that 24.5 live, but you can get in on the 26.5. What about the Clippers and the Heat, Scott? The Clippers are a 5.5 point favorite right now. It is a 34-22 game. And now the Heat, they were a favorite coming in, correct? I was thinking I grabbed the Clippers plus points, but how many points were they an underdog by? Because I'm just drawing a quick blank on that. Was it right around like 2.5? Okay. Yeah. So they were 2.5 point dogs. So right now, 5.5 point favorite. I wouldn't jump on that, but is Miami going to kind of come back in this one? Plus 215 if they come back. I thought the Clippers were live.
Yeah, I didn't like the Clippers. I know they played last night, and they lost last night. They got embarrassed last night in New Orleans, so you generally think they're in a good bounce back spot, and they are, and they have, but 10 straight road games they failed to cover. 1-11-1 their last 12 against the spread. They play awful on the road. Miami's fighting for a playoff spot, seedings and everything else. They've struggled. They've lost like 3-4 in a row themselves. But that's why I thought you get an honest effort out of them. So I would take a flyer. They're down 10, 37-27 now. I would take a flyer on Miami. I like them to begin the game. It's an 8-point swing from laying 2.5 to getting 5.5. This would be the time I would kind of like double down on a bet that's not going the way I thought it would.
What do you think of the total? The total was 206.5 at close. I remember that because I remember thinking how low it was, Scott. It's bumped up to 211.5, but are we even going to get there? It's a 37-27 game. Second quarter, just over 9 minutes left in it. I could see us coming really tight, like 210. 212, it's going to hit either side of that right now at 211.5. Do you want to see a couple more points come up on the board before you look at it under? Or was this one of those games you thought would go over that original 206.5?
Yeah, that's a low number, right? For an NBA game, 206.5. It's right. You said it's right on pace. I would side more towards the under just because Miami's not scoring. So, sometimes they come out flying. Other times they play like this. So I would side towards the under. The other one that, as far as over and unders are concerned. Atlanta's such a weird team. Charlotte, they're leading Charlotte 52-49. I forget what that over under was. I'm guessing right around where it is now, 224.5. You barely got 100 points at halftime. This Hawks team can play to a bunch of unders. Charlotte's a monster under team. I get that, but usually the home team kind of dictates tempo. They only got 101 in the first half. Now you're asking for 120 plus in the second half. I don't know if you're going to get that if Atlanta's going to play this way. So that's the under. If you were going to play one of the two, I would go under 224.5 Atlanta-Charlotte.
Yeah, this one actually closed closer to the 237 mark, Scott. So I was looking at this. Okay. Yeah, it was a high one. But I did take Trae Young for his threes to the over. I took him 4+ threes, and I was getting great plus money, like +4 or plus 160-ish for the 4+ threes. I just want to see if he's got any on the board yet. Trae Young yet to get a 3. This is what happens when I start ulting players and looking for them to go higher than their number, Scott. I just completely mushed them. Right? Like Kyle Connor last night for shots on goal. KD 2 games ago, right? As soon as I start ulting them for those numbers, so maybe Trae Young's not going to get a 3 on the board tonight. Let's just see. Over 1.5 threes, though, is -112. I think that's a good bet to jump on. He doesn't have one yet, but he can get 2.
Yeah, I think so. By the way, wow, this would be a bad beat, right? I mean, they're all bad beats, right? But Air Force was leading UNLV, right, at halftime by 4. You're getting 12.5. You're thinking, you're kicking yourself because you didn't take them on the money line. UNLV 67, Air Force 55 with 40 seconds left. UNLV's come all the way back. If they actually cover the 12.5, you talk about a bad beat. It's locked right now. 32 seconds left. Air Force just hit a shot, so now they're down 10. So I would think you'd be safe unless Air Force is doing something goofy like fouling and whatever. But we'll keep an eye on that. All right, Black Cloud playing today. Coming up next.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. And so it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Well, I just saw a funny sight on TV. Oh man, that's good gravy. Does any woman know how to put makeup on? Anyway, I digress. Welcome back in Game Live. Oh, just awful. Just hideous looking. Anyway, you know what time it is? Final segment of our first hour. Little Black Cloud play of the day. Yes. Again, we need to change this to Red Cloud play of the day because it has been on fire. We are red hot, winning again yesterday. Let us recap the week, shall we? On Monday, we gave you over 153.5 San Fran Gonzaga. Cha-ching, cha-ching, winner. Yesterday, we gave you over 157.5 Central Florida, Utah. Needed a little luck, a lot of fouling late. We got it. Cha-ching, cha-ching, winner. We're now 11-1 our last 12 plays. But you know how gambling is. It's what have you done for me lately and what are you going to do for me tonight? So with that said, we'll put the winners aside and let's go for 3-0 this week. I was really battling two plays, one in the NHL and one in college basketball. And I sided with the college basketball one just because college basketball has been pretty good in our little 11-1 Black Cloud run. So let's continue with it. Big Sky final tonight, Joe. Montana versus Northern Colorado. Grizzlies versus the Bears. How about that? Well, the nicknames in the Big Sky, by the way, are like dead on. You got to love that conference, really. All right, so where are we going to go? How about you see it over 146.5? Why? Northern Colorado, 19-11 over this year. Montana, 19-11 over this year. Montana, 13-1, scoring their last 14 games, scoring 72 points or more. Northern Colorado, 12-2, scoring 70 points or more in their last 14 games. So in their last combined 28 games, there's only been 3 occasions where these teams didn't get to 70 points. Now, could you get 72, 71 in the game go under? Yeah, but I'll take my chances that if both teams score 70 like they're supposed to, we go over 146.5. Northern Colorado, again, I said it, over 12-2 rather, getting to 70 points or more. Really, it's 71 points or more. So add it all up, competitive game, 2 best teams. You'll probably get some fouling in the end. Neither one's getting an at-large bid. Neither team's going to give up if they're down 10 with 15 seconds left. So over 146.5, Joe, Montana, Northern Colorado. What do you think?
I love it, Scott, because I've already got this bet in, and your Black Cloud has been so hot, like you've been saying. So you've got multiple shooters on both of these teams that can hit those balls from deep as well. So I think this is a great one to the over. I was a little shocked that it did drop half a point because I saw some 147s out there and then dropping to 146.5. And I was like, why is it moving in that direction? Because I expected it to move in the opposite. So I was excited when I got that 146.5, and I really do think we could hit closer to 150, 155 in this matchup.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Same thing. I saw it this morning at 147.5, and then by the time I got done doing all my work, and then I saw it later in the afternoon to 146.5. Listen, there's been a gazillion examples of line movements that just don't pan out, just don't go the right way. If it was that easy, we wouldn't have line movements, right? So just to take the extra point or one less point you have to get, and hopefully keep your fingers crossed we get a good competitive game, and more importantly, the game goes over. So, the other one I was thinking, Joe, the hockey one, I think you like also, is the under Vancouver Calgary. That was real close. I don't like going too crazy on 5.5 unders, and the college basketball's been pretty good with the Black Cloud, so I ended up siding with the Black Cloud on the college basketball. But I do like under 5.5, Vancouver Calgary.
Yeah, so do I. But I do think you have the stronger one here for your Black Cloud. I think it's such a good game to the over. And when we look at that game in the Pacific, I agree with you. I did take the under 5.5 as well. But you can make a couple of reasons why that one could go over. Vancouver on the second night of a back-to-back. Desperate teams out there. That one goes to overtime. We could see craziness happen. But I'm with you. I'm on that under 5.5. And I do think the Black Cloud tonight, you've got it straight on the money, Scott, the over 146.5. I still can't believe it's over 146.5 with Montana there.
Yeah, again, another one when you did the numbers, I really expected to see 150s when I looked at it originally. And then when I saw it at 147.5 earlier, I was like, wow. And then 146.5 obviously is that much better. So cool. We'll take it. So over 146.5 Montana and Northern Colorado tipping off 11:30 Eastern time. George Kurtz from Hockey, the football talk coming up next.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome in. It's in-game live game day, hour number 2 of our 2-hour extravaganza. Flying alongside Wetzel, Joe Madden until 10 p.m. Eastern time. Then it's Cam and Gabe taking over. We'll talk to Cam in about 45 minutes or so. In the meantime, haven't talked too much hockey tonight. Only 4 games on the board, but we got some bets we could put in. A little NFL talk as well with our good buddy George Kurtz, who joins us now, as you see in here all the time on the grid. What's going on, George? How are you tonight, bud?
Doing well. You know, Scott, I wanted to watch a lot of hockey tonight. You mentioned only 4 games, and it's a national TV night, and the NHL decides to have 7 of the 8 teams be non-playoff teams. We're watching Buffalo, Detroit, and I mean, what are they doing? It's only Vancouver and Calgary are possible playoff teams here. Just a weird night for the NHL to really put a bunch of also-rans here on what is a national TV night for TNT.
Yeah, definitely is. Let's look at the game that's going live, though, George. What do you have coming into this one? Is there anything you like live? We've got the Buffalo Sabres, Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings off that disappointing loss to the Senators in their last game out, where they came against a hot goaltender in Allmark. That first period was nuts. Not sure if you were watching it. We had a 3-2 first period. We're now sitting 4-2 for the Red Wings in the second here. Total is live at 8.5.
Yeah, listen, Buffalo's almost always an over for me. You never know what you're going to get from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in net there. Love that name, by the way. So I went with the over there. And I wasn't going to touch the game. I was going to leave the game alone until I heard pregame that Peterka was going to be out. And once he's going to be out, I mean, Buffalo's not a good team anyway. That maybe puts you a little money on Detroit on the goal line. So I need the score pretty much. I need another goal, right? I need the over 6.5 here. So I need a goal. I need it to be by Detroit to cash both.
Yeah, it is amazing. Does the NHL do anything right, George? You know, you mentioned it with the schedule, right? You know, these teams weren't even expected to be. It's not like you had the Rangers and Pittsburgh Penguins. You said at the beginning of the year, all right, we got two teams that are going to be in a playoff spot. You got like who thought Anaheim and Utah was going to be any good, or Seattle, or even Montreal? I mean, it's like this league is so dopey, but. All right, Joe and I both look at the under that Vancouver-Calgary 5.5. Hate betting unders in 5.5, but boy, how does this game get to 6 goals?
I agree. It's not one I had until about a couple of hours ago here, but I'm on the under as well. I'm also on Calgary. A lot of these teams, by the way, one of these teams played the night before. Vancouver played last night. Anaheim played last night. Montreal played last night. So it's an easy pick against all those teams, which I do on a regular basis anyway. I like picking against teams that are playing the second half of back-to-back nights when they play somebody who hasn't played the second half of back-to-back nights here. But I'm with you. I'm on the Calgary Flames to win the game. I think they'll beat Vancouver, and the under. Listen, Dustin Wolf has been a godsend for the Calgary Flames in net here, and they generally play the unders anyway. And Vancouver, they will get Quinn Hughes back tonight. All right, so that's a big get for them because he really leads their offense here. But I don't know if it'll be enough to get the over here. I like the Flames and the under.
I love where you're going with that, George, especially as a Flames fan here. Want to see Calgary be able to get the win. Now, when we look at that Utah game, you were saying you love to fade teams off that second night of back-to-back. The Ducks in that situation, but they have won the first 2 matchups versus the Utah Hockey Club already this season. Do you think that Utah can come out and win this covering that puck line, or is there another way you're going to take this game?
Well, I mean, you're not going to lay the money line at minus. It was 280 when I was looking at it here. Now it's 285. So you're not laying. Listen, I'm not laying that with Utah against an East Coast team. Right, just not doing it. All right, I think you was a decent squad here, but I'm not laying that. Give me the goal line here. I don't even love the goal line because it's minus money. Even with Utah, you're not getting plus money here to win by 2. Maybe a smarter play is to take Anaheim and take them on the goal line here. But that being said, like I said, they played last night. I just don't like that. Utah's they're a decent squad. They're not great. They're not terrible. They're middle of the pack team here. So let's go with Utah to win by more than 1.
They suck at home, though, George, Utah. I mean, I can't believe this line is as high as it is. They're 12 and 20 at home, Utah. What are they? They've lost 2 in a row. We've seen some weird lines with this Utah team. So I don't get the whole, listen, Anaheim I get, but they've been playing better, Anaheim. So I actually would take a flyer on them rather than lay the puck and a half. How about Montreal, Seattle? Any thoughts on the last game?
I like the over in this game. I think we'll get goals scored tonight. But once again, Montreal played last night. They beat Vancouver, right? 3-2, I want to say. So they played. They won here. It's the same theory here. They played the night before. So I'll take the Seattle Kraken here to beat the Montreal Canadiens. I kind of like Caulfield anytime goal as well. He has a little late play for me here. I'm going with the over. So there's going to be some goal score here. So I'll take Seattle to win the game here. I'll take Caulfield to score an anytime goal. As you can see, I don't feel great about any of these because I don't have any parlays tonight. And I love parlays, but tonight these are all also ran teams. You just don't know what you're going to get really from any of them here. Probably the game I feel the best about is Calgary beating Vancouver.
Yeah, that's going to definitely be the game of the night. Let me throw something at you with Caulfield. His anytime goals coming in at plus 165. But if you take him for 2+ points tonight, that's coming in at plus 300. That will put him at 60 points if he's able to get there. He's sitting here on the season with 58 points, 32 goals, and 26 assists. Do you think he can get a couple of points here versus the Seattle Kraken, who we know their defense has had lapses this season?
Yeah, I said I don't mind it. I already have this game going the over, so I think I'm going to get at least 6, 7, 8 goals scored tonight here. So it doesn't bother me. Caulfield had a big night last night. So did Suzuki, by the way. Kind of thought about putting him into a play as well, but Caulfield's been the better goal scorer. So I think, once again, if you want to go with 2 points, I'm fine with that. I don't know if it's more risky to take a goal or if it's a smarter play to take the points here. You need 2 points or 1 goal. Which he's not a big assist guy here, so I decided to go with the goal.
Mm-hmm. NFL, talk a little football here. First day of the new calendar NFL season. So all the trades that we heard about and not trades were done, but all the free agent signings all made official today. Let's start in Pittsburgh and with the New York Giants, the quarterback situation. Neither one has a quarterback. We're waiting on Aaron Rodgers, apparently with Pittsburgh, George. But your thoughts on where the Steelers and then where the Giants will go for their QB issues?
I mean, someone's going to be left without a chair when the music stops here, right? I mean, I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is waiting for. Is there another team out there that we're not seeing here? Pittsburgh would seem to make the most sense because they have players. All right, we know Pittsburgh's a decent team anyway. All right, theoretically, you got DK Metcalf. They have George Pickens. Well, I don't know if Pickens is going to end up remaining there. I mean, God bless Mike Tomlin for everything he has to deal with. Antonio Brown over the years, now Deontay Johnson, now Pickens. And you got to throw DK Metcalf in the fight here as well. And then you got to make it Aaron Rodgers, too, and the media circus he brings. God bless Tomlin here. I got to think it's Pittsburgh. Where else is he going to go where he can compete for anything? Cleveland? That ain't happening. The Giants? Really? You want to go back to New York and that disaster? I mean, where are you going? Is there a team here we're not seeing? Is he hoping for an injury? So I think Aaron Rodgers ends up in Pittsburgh and the Giants get screwed. They'll draft a young quarterback here. Maybe they go Russell Wilson. But the Giants, you're still the worst team in that division here. You're not going anywhere with Aaron Rodgers or without him. So I would just be building from scratch. The problem for the Giants is that does nothing for Brian Dable. Right, and Shen, they'll be fired if they don't win some games here. So I'm sure Shen really does want to get Aaron Rodgers in there. But even if they do, what does that bring you to? 6, 7 wins? That doesn't save your job either.
Who does better, Geno in Vegas or Sam Darnold in Seattle?
Well, it's an incomplete in Seattle, right? Who's going to be the receivers there? I love JSN, but that's it. Their defense looks good, and they signed DeMarcus Lawrence today. Good for them. Right now, I guess I'd have to take Geno by default, but I think when all is said and done, it'll be Sam Darnold in Seattle because that defense is really good for the Seahawks there, playing a weaker division as well. Not a weak division, but a weaker division than the AFC West. So I think in the end, it will be Sam Darnold here. Hey, they got him cheap for about $33 million a year. A little so surprised that Darnold signed so light. So to answer your question, give me Darnold, but that's an incomplete right now.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, George. I wouldn't have paid him, but I thought for sure there'd be some dopey team that would give him $40 million. So you're right. I think they got him on the cheap. Great job, George. As always, we'll do it again soon. Thanks.
Anytime.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning. This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the Grid. Hour number 2, Scott and Joe Madden until 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks to George Kurtz joining us as he does from time to time. Go back to the hockey board here real quickly. We got update in one of the games. Well, really, there's only one game that's going on. Another one's starting here in like 2 minutes or so. Detroit 4-3 now over Buffalo. Love the over in the game. I love playing overs in 2 bad teams. Goes against the grain. Public says, both these teams stink. No one's going to score. And whether it's football, basketball, baseball, hockey, you get 2 bad teams together, it just leads to goals in the case of hockey. So 4-3, still in the second period. That one is going over. Calgary, Vancouver, Joe, we'll break it down here for a second since it is just getting underway. Calgary minus 150 at home against Vancouver. Over-under, as we talked about, 5.5. Both teams battling for playoff spots, as you mentioned. Calgary 2-0-2, their last 4, so they got points in 4 straight games. Nice under team, like we talked about, 21-8 under their last 29, including 8-1 their last 9, more importantly. Vancouver, meanwhile, 17-8 under its last 25, including 10-3 their last 13 games. So strong under trends, only 6-14 last 20 road games, the Canucks. So I guess Calgary's 20-7 at home against Vancouver. So give me the Flames. I'll lay the minus 150. But I really like the under in the game most of all.
Yeah, that's where I have to go in this one, Scott. It is Calgary and the under. I do think both of these teams will come out and try that defensive style of hockey. Now, the puck has dropped, and I've had it on my TV. Calgary spent a lot of time in Vancouver's zone, playing around with the puck, not taking those shots on goal. Vancouver was able to get it out. They got it into Calgary's end, but then it was straight back into the zone here for Calgary, pushing on Vancouver. So this is interesting. Calgary has to stay out of the box. So it's pivotal for our under as well for them to get the win because they spend so many minutes in that box. They've got a weak kill too. Their kill's only 74.9%. And the power play's converting here for Vancouver at 22.5%. So out of all that time, we've taken just under 2 minutes off the clock. There's only been 1 shot on goal so far, Scott, and that's been from Calgary, that 1 shot. I think the under 1.5 is in play in this first period as well. That was coming in at minus 112 pregame. I'm seeing that coming right around minus 140 now as we've taken time off. So not getting a great number, but this is an absolute battle. We've got Vancouver 5th in the Pacific, 69 points in 64 games. So Calgary's coming in here 4th for that last wild card spot. They're battling it out, 70 points, but they got a game in hand. So Vancouver wants this win, and so does Calgary. They're both hungry to get it tonight, Scott.
All right, not bad. Next one up, starting in about an hour, Anaheim and Utah. As we were talking with George, I find this to be a strange line. I mean, Utah, they're just not that good at home. Not that they're great on the road either, but they're 12-20 at home, so it's not like they have any great home ice advantage here. Anaheim, they did play last night, 7-4 to Washington, but overall they're playing some halfway decent hockey. And I'm not ready to lay 1.5 pucks either with Utah. So give me Anaheim. I'll take Anaheim plus 1. I won't get too greedy. Give me Anaheim plus the 1.5 goals at minus 120 or so.
So I played around with this one because I wasn't willing to lay the 1.5 on Utah because I wasn't getting plus money. I didn't want to lay the juice on that 1.5. I looked at Utah's team total. I do think they can score 4 goals in this. John Gibson in goal for the Anaheim Ducks tonight. I just don't trust him to not allow these goals to come in. It's a really weak kill here for the Anaheim Ducks. We know they have one of the weakest power plays as well. And when we look at the Utah Hockey Club coming out of the break, Scott, even though they don't have great numbers out of the break, they've been actually converting on that power play and they've been winning those faceoffs. So I expected the Utah Hockey Club to at least put goals on the board. Now, we saw the Ducks last night on that game versus the Washington Capitals. They pushed in that first period. Now, was that a reflection of the Washington Capitals getting that slow start in their first periods? Because we've seen that over the last couple, them making that push back. Or was that on the Anaheim Ducks? Well, one thing I know is that last night, Troy Terry didn't get on the board for the Ducks. So I do think in this game, he's going to be pivotal. And then when we look at Utah Clayton Keller. I do think Clayton Keller can come out and get a goal tonight. He's coming in at plus 150, which is interesting to see his 2+ points, Scott. It's also right at plus 150. I'll take the goal here. I don't think those points would be coming via assist. He's got 73 points, 23 goals, 50 assists. Dylan Gunther is sitting right around there as well. I just think with Utah, 6th in the Central, they are 3 points out of a postseason spot. So lots would have to happen. Calgary and Vancouver would have to go on a losing streak, and Utah would have to win every game. But it is only 3 points holding them to that difference of that playoff spot.
All right. I just found a little bet here as you were talking. How about back to Vancouver, Calgary? I'm just putting a real black cloud on this under. I really am. But how about exact goals first period? They still offer it. We're about 5 minutes in. You can get 0 goals at plus 195 or 1 goal at plus 160. I might do both. And either way, you know, unless they get 2 goals, but, you know, or you can just bet under 1.5, but that's over 2 to 1. So I'm going to grab the 0 goals, Joe, at 2 to 1. I think we have a scoreless first period. We survived 5 minutes.
I like where you're going with that. So, yeah, we survived 5 minutes here. Both teams only have 2 shots in 5 minutes. So you do have a backup goaltender in for Vancouver. But I do think, like, between the 0-0 or just a 1 goal at plus 160 even, if someone's scoring, it's Calgary from what I'm seeing out here with how they're pushing, Scott. So I don't know. We almost saw Vancouver score. I tell you, Dustin Wolf is so strong between the pipes. They're not scoring here. Let's go it. Put the black cloud on it, Scott. Take the 0-0. I'm in. I wish I could bet it. I can't find that anywhere. I was looking as you were saying that.
You don't see it under first period? Where'd I find it here?
Locked up for me. I've got none of those bets available.
Oh,
my whole first period is locked.
First period exact. Yeah, I still have it. It's down to plus 170. Wow. But if you go to first period and drop, you look down first period exact goals, plus 165. It's going lower and lower. So that's one of those that I got to put aside. Don't look at the game. You get agita. You just got to come back 5 minutes later and have it down to like 8 minutes. When it gets under 5, then I'll start thinking, we got a shot to cash this ticket. So far though, so good. All right, more coming up in game live. GameDay on the grid.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day on the Grid, hour number 2. 11 minutes left, still no score. They're at a timeout, Vancouver and Calgary. All the things going on, we're watching Vancouver and Calgary. Scoreless first period, that's what we need. So far, 8 minutes and change in, no score. All right, college basketball, let's go to that. At the half, a little bit of a comeback, that's good. USC and Rutgers, Joe, we all like the over in that one. It's 41-30. They're giving you 151.5, which is pretty close to what the original number was, but, it doesn't take a genius to figure out, 41 points and 30. You got 71 and 71 is only 142. So we're still 10 points behind, or at least 5 anyway, if you want to split it up 50-50. Good 5-6 points behind. You generally get more scoring in the second half. Good little spread there, where it's a 10-point game. So you're going to have Rutgers, have to pick up the pace here a little bit. So 41-30, not too bad. Would have liked a few more, but I suppose I'll take it. What else do we got going on? Seton Hall and Villanova. This Seton Hall team just stinks. Oh, my goodness. 15-4. 7 minutes in. They've scored 4 stinking points. I played a hunch on the over, 126.5. They're giving it 125.5 now because you have 19 points, but it's all Villanova. Somewhere along the line, Seton Hall's got to pick up the pace here, no?
I would think so. You would hope so. What's Eric Dixon done out there for Villanova? I don't get these lines, Scott. It's a Seton Hall game. It's a Rutgers game.
Right. Jersey
I don't
game.
have either
That's
of
right.
them.
My bad. Sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah.
That's okay.
Let's see how Dixon, leading scorer at NCAA. Don't know what his over number. He hasn't scored yet. Okay, that's interesting.
Okay, his was 20. It was high. It was 21, 22.5. I saw some numbers out there on different books, but again, I couldn't get it in. So
yeah,
it's too bad. I was looking for him to come out strong tonight.
Wonder what let me see what Seton Hall's team props are. Team total points now is 54.5. But it's sometimes they don't score 50. Now it's 53.5. I would think somewhere along the line they would get that, but I already got the over in the game, 126.5. So I'll just kind of hold with that and see if they can start scoring here a little bit. Man, this team is so bad, so bad. All the others, any other games that are going on? A lot of smaller games. FIU is kind of hanging tough with Jacksonville State. Yeah. I did like Jacksonville State laying 7.5, which is pretty much what it was to start the game. They're much FIU is awful. They get 3 or 4 conference wins this season. Coppin State leads South Carolina State. They were 8.5, I think, point underdog. They're at the half, high scoring game. And South Carolina State down 4, still laying 6.5. So it was probably even higher than that point spread. That one kind of
you would think South Carolina State will come back in the second half and be able to get things done, Scott. I'd lay the 6.5 with South Carolina State, but I do think we still go over that total live at 155.5. So I'd lay that as well. It's minus 114 for the over there.
All right. Oklahoma and Georgia tipping off here in about 5 minutes. We got Georgia laying 3.5 against Oklahoma, over under 147.5. And then we also got the Kansas game against Central Florida tipping off here in just a couple of moments as well. Central Florida and Kansas point spread survey says is 10.5 and 154.5. Central Florida is a big over team. Kansas is a big under team. So I kind of stayed away from that. I didn't play that game. Back-to-back games for Central Florida, which rallied last night to win. So they advanced on to the second round of this Big 12 conference tournament. We gave you the stat last night that hit. Central Florida, I will say 10-0 over their last 10 neutral site games. So if you want to buy into trends, Kansas wins by 51 at Orlando in January, and then they only win by 4. I think it was an overtime game, to tell you the truth. Back in Lawrence, Kansas, they're laying 10.5.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we were live for that one, weren't we? Wasn't it a Saturday night and we were watching that one and couldn't believe Central Florida went to overtime? I'm looking, though, at this one. I think Kansas, offensively, they're going to pull away at some point in this game. Now, I do want to get a better number, though, Scott. when the ball drops here and we're playing this game out. I do think Central Florida can go on a couple of runs. And because of that, I think we'll get Kansas probably plus or laying 5.5. So that's where I want to go. And then looking at Georgia versus Oklahoma, I know that Oklahoma can come out nice and strong, but I do think Georgia's going to dominate defensive blast and get the win. I don't know if they cover the 3.5. Yeah, I'm
All right, we'll talk more about it when we come back.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. And so it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. This first period is now crawling. When you got a goofy bet like this, normally it's like, yeah, whatever, okay, we're down to 11, we're down to 8, but as 5 and 10 minutes go by, Joe, I'm looking at the clock, Scott Wetzel, Joe Madden, and it's that we're only down to 8.5 minutes. I mean, it was 11.5 minutes like 15 minutes ago, and we've only taken 3 minutes off the clock, so we got nothing still. We're still alive, but it's just, at a snail's pace here as we have a play at 2-1, no goals in the first period. So no score Calgary, and they're giving you 4.5 now. Oh, by the way, it dropped it, which makes sense, right? They dropped it to 4.5, but I got enough on it, so no need to do that.
Well, here's some bad news. There's been fighting out there on the ice. There's no goal yet, Scott.
Penalties.
But it does look like Calgary's going to take the penalty. The kill's not strong for Calgary, right? You're going to need Dustin Wolf to absolutely stand on his head. But rightly so that Calgary got scrappy out there. There was a check in the back on Kadri. They actually basically sandwiched him between two players. I believe it was, I'm trying to think of the name because the name is long. And so I've got it in my head. Peterson, no, it wasn't Peterson. I'll think of who it was for Vancouver. But now, oh no, this is a different fight. They're showing previous fights between these guys, but it was dirty, Scott, that hit out there.
Really?
So we're going to see someone going into the box. Someone's going on a power play. And if it's Vancouver on the power play, their power play is strong. Calgary's so weak on that kill, Scott. It's not a good thing. Hold your breath.
All right.
Wolf has
hold my breath on this one. And someone has an advantage, right? It's not even strength that you're not 4-on-4. Someone actually has a power play.
Yeah, I definitely think Calgary, because Connor Zari reacted on Elias Pettersson. It was Elias Pettersson. So Connor Zari and Mackenzie Weegar, the ref was pulling away. Yeah, so it is Zari is in the penalty box for interference. He's got a 2-minute penalty, so Vancouver's going on a 2-minute power play. Not what Calgary needed to see out here, because you look at Calgary on that kill, Scott, their kill is only 74.9%. The power play here for Vancouver's 22.5. It's not good. Need the best out of them right now.
Yeah, we're in trouble. All right, Celtics have tied up OKC 95 all. They weren't down a lot, but OKC's been kind of maintaining a 2 to 6, 7 point lead. So Celtics have tied it at 95. Nearly 9 minutes left. Still at a pretty good pace. Not quite the pace I was hoping for. 233.5 is the number now on FanDuel. I grabbed it earlier. I still think it's going to go over. They have played a little bit better defense, only 53 points in the third quarter, kind of maintaining that pace here in the fourth, which is okay because we only needed about 50 points in this fourth quarter, but still, you just never know. And then you got the overtime bet. If you want to hop on board that, I have not played that yet tonight, and I generally don't play it in the NBA just because these teams – they don't want to play an extra 5 minutes. They really don't. They'll hoist up threes down 2 with an open lane to get a layup. But plus 870 is the overtime bet.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a close game.
Yeah.
I'll take I'll take a little flyer on that, Joe. Why not? Even though I just said I don't bet NBA overtimes. But
well, I liked it when we're in that
listen to
period.
myself.
First half when it was nice and tight there. So it was at plus 1,700. And I still think at plus 850, really good price here. Fourth quarter, 8 minutes, 50 seconds left. Tied up game. 850 is a great price, actually, Scott, that they're giving us right now.
Yeah, I actually think it is too. I mean, I think this is going to be a close game. You just have to have, as anything, you got to have, fortune be on your side. But as far as, worrying about it being a blowout, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this is going to be a 1 or 2 possession game. So getting, over 8.5 to 1, pretty good play. Philadelphia made a little bit of a run against Toronto, but the Raptors have opened it back up, now leading by 10. 90 and now by 13, just hit a 3-pointer, 101-88. So get a little breathing room, laying to 3.5, 4.5, 7.5 minutes left to go in that contest. Utah's kind of hanging around with Memphis, down 10. Looked like they were going to get their doors blown off completely. The line is 11.5, and the over/under is 236.5. So they're kind of keeping pace. And I did like the Rockets tonight, laying the 4.5. We talked about that. They're up 9, 75-66, midway through the third. And your Clippers, you like the Clippers, Joe. They're still leading by 12 over Miami, 79-67, laying 8.5.
Yeah, Scott, that power play was no good. Vancouver just scored. And I don't know if it was right at the end of the power play, because the last time I looked, there was like 9 seconds left. And then I started looking here at what Kevin Durant had for his points. He's got 11. And then all of a sudden, Vancouver scored on a Dustin Wolf. So I think it was right at the end. I think it was an even strength. They're not going to record it as a power play goal, but that goal it was a beautiful shot out there by Sutter. Sutter scoring there on Dustin Wolf. Yeah, he had no chance. Did you take the one goal or no?
No.
Okay.
I didn't, because I did take the under 1.5. If I hadn't have done that already, then I saw this, prop, and I'm like, well, there's no sense, because I'm kind of just doubling down on my bet. I already got 1.5. So they didn't score again, did they? No. Okay.
They better not.
Otherwise I would have. But so yeah. So we got 6.5 minutes. I got to survive that bet now. I thought for sure we could, get that one. But,
and that's the thing. Calgary can't take these penalty minutes, Scott. They average over 10 penalty minutes a game. With that kind of kill, why are you messing up out there? Right? It's not good.
That's amazing. No. So 5-3 Detroit. Detroit scored again against Buffalo. So 18 minutes left. That one, it's locked right now, but boy, I get a feeling the scoring hasn't stopped in that contest. We may end up with 10 goals, 11 goals, when everything is said and done there. Atlanta by 8 over Charlotte. 6 minutes left to go, fourth quarter there. What else do we got here in the NBA? Yeah, that's really it. And college basketball, I'm sure the second half has started with Rutgers, right? Seton Hall, hey, good for Seton Hall. They've actually scored 10 points. You know what? For them, that's actually not too bad. So they're down 25-10, 8.5 minutes left to go. And actually, the over-under is up to 132.5. You know, I got a pregame at 126.5. As long as Villanova does all the scoring, that's fine by me. I don't care if it ends up being 100-40, as long as he gets past 126. And Villanova's on a pretty good pace here. So laying 22.5. Want to take a little flyer, getting 22.5? Oh, well, no, you can't. Never mind.
I wish
Kansas.
it could. Right?
Kansas.
It's like holding a chocolate bar, Scott. Joe, do you want some? Yeah, absolutely. I'm always going to say yes, and I can.
I keep on forgetting you don't have the New Jersey schools. That is so weird. So weird. All right, Georgia 5-3 over Oklahoma. No big deal there. Kansas 8-4 over Central Florida. Only 4 points for Central Florida in over 4 minutes. That's important just because they want to score in the 80s. Kansas wants to keep this in the 60s, and so far Kansas is controlling the tempo, now laying 13.5. Let me see how our Coppin State, South Carolina State. All right, it's down to 1, 41-40. Not bad. Just started the second half there. We thought they would come back and make a little comeback, and so far they have. So,
any overtime bets in these college games, Scott?
No, I didn't. Maybe tomorrow I'll get to some of the overtime stuff. When a little more of the big boys start to play. Like tomorrow's schedule, I didn't look at it, but I'm assuming tomorrow we'll kind of get some of the major conferences and the decent games starting. And then with that,
go ahead.
My what? No,
I was just going to ask you your faith in Syracuse after they won last night. Do you have any faith in them? Come on. I know you love the Army.
I don't. I can't bet Syracuse. You know, Syracuse to me is like Seton Hall and Rutgers to you. Yeah,
I forgot that.
They don't exist in my world. It's amazing how it's sad. You know, you can't gamble on it. Just they don't exist. Syracuse, what is that? You don't even know what that is. So yeah. We get Cam Stewart's talk about that. It's help. Yeah, what a bet.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. And so it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
welcome back. In-game live game day here on the grid. Scott and Joe, another 15, 20 minutes or so. Cam Stewart, Gabe Morency at the top of the hour. Take over. And joining us now, Mr. Cam Stewart. We got some golf. We got a little hockey. I got a whole smorgasbord of things to get to, Cam. So you want to get the golf out of the way? You want to save that for the end?
Let's save it, Scott. Let's go live right now and do what I do. Take crappy teams at plus goals. Give me Buffalo live plus 2.5, down 2 to Detroit. And Joe, this one's for you. Obviously, me and Morency are gonna, we'll butt heads or whatever. I'll take Calgary live. What are they getting? Like plus 140. Give me a shot. Actually, plus 152. I will. That sounds better to me. We got a lot of hockey left, and we'll see what happens here. Should be a really, really tight game. So that's what we're doing on the ice. Basketball tonight. Minnesota Timberwolves plus 2.5. Sprinkle money line. College basketball, this is interesting. I don't know what we're going to do with some of these games, but there's some real tough ones out tonight. Scott, you were talking about the Kansas game. How about Oklahoma getting 4.5 with Georgia? That's something that I like right now. That game's 9-8 for the Sooners. And later on tonight, Montana versus Northern Colorado championship game. Give me Northern Colorado minus 140 money line. I'm not even going to screw around with the spread. So that's what I got right now. Grand Canyon should take care of business against UT Arlington, but I don't want to lay 8.5. Oh yeah, and I got another one. Hey, Calgary just scored right where we click. And Cal Poly minus 114 against UC Davis. That's the way we're going to roll tonight. All small plays. That's great news, Joe. Now we got plus 150. Now we're back in business. This is how it works. Perfect timing here. Golf tournament, Scott. You guys got anything that you like before I get into the golf?
No, you're the expert. Go ahead, fire away.
Expert, okay, yeah. Sometimes you can say sometimes I'm an expert. Other time, hey, we hit the first round leader last week. That was a bomb. So we do that. It pays for the tournament. Here we go, guys. To win the Players' Championship, the unofficial fifth major in golf. This is going to be a fantastic tournament. Everyone's there. Golf bettors, though, we're greedy. We don't take Scotty Scheffler like 4-1. We're always looking for more. So we're going to start things off with a guy that has a great track record here right now. Okay, these are first-round leaders. If you want to get these through, guys, or where do we want to start? We want to start. Let's go to the outrights first. I'll get the leaders last because that's what we want to do. People can write those down and hopefully get ahead of it. So Justin Thomas, 28-1. This guy's been bet down to 22-25. I found a great early line in the week. If you find him over 20, I would still take him. Justin Thomas has multiple top fives in this tournament, plays really well at TPC Sawgrass, and you know what? He's getting it rounding into form, and the tougher the golf course, the better he plays. Hideki Matsuyama, 30-1, has won here before. And unfinished business, the COVID year was leading, and it canceled the tournament. He wasn't happy about that. Don't get Hideki mad, 30-1. Tommy Fleetwood. That one, you can kind of shake your head and go, Cam, why are you betting Fleetwood? He never wins. He comes second a lot, but this is the type of course he can win on. Remember, second at the Canadian Open. He's been heartbroken a lot of the times too, but great ball striker, great putter, great off the tee. You need to be straight. This is the value plays now. Daniel Berger. I heard my boy Greg Frank, who produces the Sports Rage show, is on him too. Burger time, full barbecue at 65-1. Let's go. This guy is playing great. Multiple top 15s in this tournament, coming off injury, playing better all the time. Wyndham Clark, second at this tournament last year, going to give me 65-1. I'll take it. And my bomb special, Scott, I always give you a dumpster guy, is actually playing really, really well. Almost led after the first round, hung around last week. Max Gracerman, the pride of Duke. We like Duke in basketball. Well, Duke golf, he's the guy, 125-1. Now for some outrights, top fives, top 10s, and top 20s. We got Scotty Scheffler, top five. Yes, if it's plus money, we're going to play it. You could probably get a great line, too. If he's not leading heading into the weekend, you can get better than his original number. Colin Morikawa lost by a stroke last week. I'll take him plus 140 for a top 10. Aberg, Keith Stewart, and a lot of people on the network like him this week. I do, too. I just don't like his price at 15-1. I'll take him for a top 10 at plus 170. Xander Schauffele, great over the weekend. Nobody's really paying attention, guys. I will say this, Scott and Joe, he's a great value pick at 25-1, too. He almost made my board. Nobody's getting the respect because he's coming off an injury. He's usually 10-1, but because he's coming off that injury, you're getting 25, and he's playing great in the last two rounds last week. So he's trending in the right direction. Aaron Rye does everything well, except for sometimes he doesn't hit that big putt. 2-1 for a top 20, and the little lefty that could, Brian Harman. Great results at this tournament. I can't believe I'm getting 3-1 for a top 20. Now we go. First round leaders. This is where it's at. Can we please build the bankroll? Ludwig Aberg, 30-1. Let's go. Tommy Fleetwood, like our horse, he comes right out of the gate hot, but is he going to stay there all weekend? Really don't care. Even though I have him outright, I need that first round leader more than we can build it. Keegan Bradley, he was right there last week inside the top 5 after the first round. Corey Connors for you, Joe. A little Canadian content. No doubt about it. 65-1. Played fantastic last week. Rasmus Højgaard. Remember, he's got a brother, N. Højgaard. R. Højgaard. 110-1. Great world-class player. And this one's a real bomb. I looked at some stats and go, what kind of guy could do well this week? Not Mark Messier, Mac Meisner. 160-1. People are like, who the hell is Mac Meisner? I don't care. But if he's the first round leader at 161 and I got $20 on it, I'll be doing a dance. Those are the picks, guys. Good luck at the players. Should be a lot of fun. By the way, Scott, I'm not going to tell you anything about cash outs. Not going to do anything. You're the boss. I've given you bad advice over the last couple of weeks. You want money, you can do it. I will say this, though. Over the weekend, they're expecting heavy wins. So guys who are leading, be very careful. There's going to be a lot of switching on the leaderboard. You want to take those players like Fleetwood on the European Tour. Guys who play well, hit low, boring ball flight in the win. Guys who hit it too high might have a little bit of problems over the weekend. They're expecting heavy wins. And you know what that means? There's one bet I found on a book. Balls in water at 17th hole prop, over 52.5, I bet. I think there's going to be 60-plus balls in the water. You like that one, Scott, for everybody? Over 52.5 water balls at the 17th. No, I had to bet. I go, this prop is amazing. It's just like, yes, I love it. Because the winds are going to pick up, and that means balls in water. I will take it. So those are the picks, guys. Good luck to everybody. Hopefully we nail that first-round leader, and we can, roll it into something else.
Yeah. What'd you think about the Tiger Woods stuff? Not surprised, right?
He's done. Tiger Woods, not surprising at all. Actually, he's going through a bad stretch. His mother just passed away, which we understand. Like, that sucked. And now he's injured again. But you know what? His kids are doing great. His little girl won like a soccer championship, state champion, and his kid is a great golfer too. So Tiger living vicariously through his successful children right now. So he has something to be happy about. But he's going through a lot right now.
Well, Penn Stewart, top of the hour, what a game.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the grid. Final segment, thanks to Cam. He'll take over along with Gabe Morency. Top of the hour, sweating out the over here. It is the dopey Celtic game. Oh, jeez, they're getting their ass kicked, Joe. Can't believe it. All right. See, if this was college, it would be an absolute over. But they're down 8. I got 50 seconds left. We're at 122. Where was the scoring just stopped? I tell you, this Celtic team, every time I watch them, whether it was Cleveland, 2 weeks ago when they blew that big first half lead, now it's OKC, they come to town. I get it, they don't have anyone, no Porzingis, but, it's like a lot of these teams that people keep on saying, well, once they get healthy, whether it's Phoenix or whoever, but they're never healthy. They're just never healthy. So to think that all of a sudden they're going to get healthy in the postseason, because this team is not the greatest team in the world unless they have everyone on their court, and they don't again tonight, and they're going to lose again tonight against one of the big boys. So we just need a whole bunch of points here to close it out. But anyway, Detroit is leading 6-3, by the way. Calgary, 1-1 against Vancouver. We were looking really good for a 0-0, and we ended up with 2 goals. So we're back to the original 5.5. That's not the worst thing in the world, but I was kind of hoping to get out of that first period. Really nothing. But even just 1-0 would have been okay. So definitely no matter what happens, we're going to have to sweat out the 5.5.
Yeah, I know. And so looking at that, Cam got a great bet taking Calgary when they were down by that goal at plus 152. When I like a first period under 1.5, and then we roll into the second with those 2 goals. In this situation, I normally like to come back on the under 1.5 in the second period, because I do still think logically this has to be that lower scoring game. The third period is where I would think we would see more goals, but with how scrappy these teams are, Scott, it's not something I can jump in on right now. So definitely watch for it in other games, but the under 1.5 right now for this one is only at plus 100. And if the penalties come, we're going to see conversion, especially for Vancouver. So I can't touch it. We need these teams to play cleaner, and then it should cash, but I'm not counting on a should here, Scott.
All right. Any final reminders on the next 2 games?
Next 2 games out there on the ice. Yeah, for sure. I'm looking at Utah to be able to go over 3.5 goals. That's coming in at minus 122. I like Clayton Keller to come out and be able to get a goal on the board. That's coming in at plus 150. That will be goal number 24 if he's able to get it tonight. And then between Montreal and Seattle, I know Montreal played last night, but I like how their defense has been able to lock down the Kraken in previous games. And I do think this team trying to make a push for a playoff spot, they're just sitting 2 points out of a wild card spot. I do think they can pick up a win, and I do think it's because of Cole Caulfield. Now, one thing I do on the nightly is when I'm looking at Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, I'm parlaying them both for a point. It's always going to get you right around plus 113 to plus 130 money parlayed together. So I will be hitting on that again tonight. But then I'll also look at Cole Caulfield for 2+ points at plus 300. His goal coming in at plus 165. But he's got 58 points on the season. I think he hit 60 tonight, Scott.
All right. The last 2 games to me, really, I really like the under the 5.5. The other 2, I take a little flyer on Anaheim. A little bit on the money line, but mostly getting a puck and a half. So NBA, Celtics hit 2 free throws. They cut the deficit to 7, 116 to 109 with 14 seconds left. We're in trouble. We need 5 points somehow or another. Can we get 5 points? Man, this game should have went way over. We had 123 points at halftime. We barely got 100 points in the second half. All right. Utah hanging around. That's 98-90. Still, looking pretty good with the 11.5, 12.5. If you grabbed them originally, it's 9.5 now. We got 2 games tipping off here in about 10, 15 minutes, Joe. We'll start Denver laying 1.5 points. It's down to 1.5 points. Wow. Everybody is betting Minnesota. Joker's playing, Jamal Murray's playing, and Denver's at home. Line was 3.5, and now it's down to 1.5.
Wow. I got Minnesota plus the 4, and I don't love that everyone is in on them here, Scott. I kind of want to hedge and just take Denver at minus 126 on the money line, because that is definitely terrifying for me. But this is the one that my same game parlays in, so I'll stay with it. I've got Minnesota plus the 4. I've got Julius Randle for his points, rebounds, and assists over 30.5, and then Jamal Murray over 22.5 points, parlayed together at plus 482.
All right, I got my SGP with Denver. You know what? Not going to jump off now. You want to make it down to 1.5? I'll take it at 1.5. What's the difference? And then Knicks real quickly laying 3.5 against Portland.
I'd take the Knicks, lay the 3.5, and look at the over. I think we're getting a ton of points in this one, Scott.
Ooh, speaking of over, the Celtics are fouling. I need one free throw. We'll talk to you tomorrow.